For those that don't want any kids in the future, why? Reason 1. It's as simple as I've always known. I've never wanted them. I'm 32F, and one of the biggest turning points of my life was about 4 years ago when I realized I'd been anxious my entire 20s about the pending inevitability of parenthood. It felt like a black cloud hanging over the rest of my life from the age of 30 onwards that I was hurtling towards. Then I realized I had a choice, and not having kids was an option. I think it took so long to get to that place, because as a female, you are relentlessly bombarded with motherhood your entire life. Since my decision, I feel like I'm only starting to feel alive. I love my life so much and am excited for all that's to come. For people who heart and soul want children, amazing. I hope you have a wonderful journey. I'm just so glad I was born in a time when finally not having kids is a viable option too. Very aware, this depends on where you live however, so recognize my privilege in having this choice. I'm also anticipating many years ahead of people asking me about my choice, etc., given my age. Reason 2. Society is getting worse. Everything is more expensive. I can't imagine bringing a child into my life. Also, life for them in the future. When they're old, I have no idea what I'd be bringing them into, but from how it looks, it won't get any better. I don't want them to struggle because I wanted a kid. Schools suck because we can't keep good teachers, because they don't get compensated properly, and other parents suck at raising kids, so there's other hellions. People have kids to make themselves or their families happy, and don't think in the long run the difficulties they'll have raising it or what life that person will endure long after they're gone. Balt say it's selfish to not have kids. It's selfish to bring them into this world and resent them later and not know what the future holds. So many people that are in their retirement age that wound up never having kids do not regret and are happier. I've only ever heard of 1 or 2 people really being sad they couldn't have kids. Reason 3. Have you seen the state of the world in the past 25 years? Seriously, think about your mental health and the mental health of your peers. Then compare that with people 25 years older than you. See how they aren't as anxious and depressed? It's because they weren't raised in a society where school shootings, technological ease of human trafficking and child pornography, and chronic war and financial crisis were regular occurrences. Vietnam lasted about 8 years. The Cold War about a decade ago. Desert Storm is about 8 years, depending on who you ask. The gas crisis of the 1970s is the closest most people in the boomer population came to experiencing an economic crisis compared to the recession of 2008. This world is only going downhill, and I'm not about to bring a child into the world to shoulder this burden. On top of that, all children wind up resenting their parents, and all parents wind up jealous of their children in one way or another. I don't even understand why people would want that except they think they'll be magically different. I'm so tired of getting asked this question, because nobody wants the honest answer. You can't say this stuff to someone who is a parent or wants to be one. They only ask so they can examine you like a circus animal and try to understand where you went wrong so they don't repeat your parents' errors. What they don't realize is that such a broad generalization and attitude just results in them messing up their kids in a different way. So you think you can be a better parent than mine by being more emotionally present and available? Congratulations! Now your kids feel stifled and want you to get your own life. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there are more than 1,000 ways to mess up your kid. I do not need to participate. Reason 4. Because my journey through life has led me to hate and completely detest 99% of people I run into, to the point where I am now an isolationist. I go out of my way to not be around people unless I can't help it. I want less people in the world, not more. Plus, kids are generally terrible because their parents who raise them are generally terrible. Seriously, children should be a right you have to earn, instead of everyone just being allowed to have 8 damn kids on welfare draining resources that could be put to better use. Sorry, but Stevie and Sally's 8 kids at the trailer park drug den aren't gonna statistically add up to anything except another welfare/prison statistic. Simply put, terrible people raise terrible kids who grow up to be awful people to raise awful kids who grow up to raise even more horrible kids, and so on, and so on, and so on. Cull the herd, I say. Reason 5. There's just more negatives than positives for me. Even though ever since I was a little girl, I always said I wanted to be a mommy when I grow up. Pain and problems during labor and permanent body changes. I pass out every time I get my blood drawn. I don't think I could do any of what checkups/labor/post-labor entails. I'm in the US, so lack of abortion rights are extremely scary. If something happens where I'd medically need that, but can't receive it, I'm young and haven't tried for a baby. So if I have fertility problems and happen to need the procedure, I'm so. I also don't want to risk hating my body even more than I already do, or the unique bodily changes that come along with post-pregnancy, or having my damn rectum fall out of my butt, or anything bodily that would affect the rest of my life, which also goes hand in hand with my general, especially health. Anxiety would drive me through the roof during and after pregnancy. A child equals a lifetime of worry for me and my child, which would most likely have these anxieties develop within my child if I can't keep it under control. Some, dare I say most, men tend to change for the worst during or after pregnancy, and I can't guarantee that won't happen, and I'll be stuck raising a child alone. Cost of having a child, especially here in the US, is insane, and I'm already poor. A child is a lifelong commitment in my eyes, not just an 18-year commitment, so I'd most likely be broke the rest of my life. This is the biggest reason. Lack of freedom. I like being able to hop up at 3 a.m. and go out with friends, or go on a trip, with it being cheaper and more to do without worrying about a child. This is the second biggest reason. Pedos, traffickers, rapists, kidnappers, murderers, sexual harassment, abuse, etc. I don't know a single woman that I've spoken personally with who hasn't dealt with at least one of these. More men than I thought have also dealt with at least one of these in some form. I don't want to worry about my child encountering or becoming one of these people, because only Lord knows what I'd do. Lack of hope for a good future for the child. I can't guarantee this world will get better when it's only looking worse and worse. I wouldn't want to put my child through that struggle if it's any worse than what we're dealing with now. My own trauma could affect how I raise the child, and I wouldn't want to pass my own issues onto my child mentally. Also, any genetic mental and physical problems I'd risk passing on to them from me or the baby daddy. Little support system. The US isn't great with helping or accommodating, financially, medically, jobs, etc. And I don't have much family or friends to turn to. Firm believer in it takes a village to raise a child. Who knows though? I'm only 23 and have more chances to do so. My plan right now, if I'm financially and emotionally/mentally stable enough, is to adopt or foster slightly older children when I'm about 35 to 40 years old. There's so many children out there who need love, care, and a place to call home. They get what they want: love, family, acceptance. And I get what I want: to be a mom/mother figure. Give them my love, make them feel worthy, and contribute to a positive influence/change. Reason 6. I'm not going to say anything that probably hasn't been said, but I am both child-free and anti-natalist. This means I personally do not want or particularly enjoy the company of children, but also I don't believe in subjecting someone to 80+ years of life without them having any say in the matter. I am also zero population/VHEMT, which means I also believe we have far outpaced the resources available on this planet for everyone. Humans have royally fucked everything they have touched, with the exception of a few primitive tribes. We're mid a mass extinction event, and the world is pretty much on fire. Having kids is ecologically irresponsible, selfish, and short-sighted. I would never ever want my kids growing up with this environmental, social, and economic anxiety. And I love my solitude. A lot. I love being alone. I like quiet. I like choosing when and if I have to deal with people. Finally, I volunteer. A lot. I foster dogs and cats and transport and volunteer for rescues and shelters. I am an apprentice wildlife rehabber. I flip horseshoe crabs at midnight, and I sometimes have a bloody turkey vulture in my car, and I sometimes drive 2 hours to pick up some puppies, and the positive impact I make on my part of the world doing that is valuable. I wouldn't be able to drop everything and volunteer if I had kids. Reason 7. Preface. I do not judge people for choosing to have or not to have children. Honestly, I love children and will happily spend time with them as long as I can give them back. But the life you need to lead to properly raise them and offer them the best opportunities really bores me. I want to live my life for me and my partner, not for children. I don't care to cart them around to clubs, Saturday morning soccer, other kids' birthday parties, etc. I want to do what I enjoy when I want to do it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my happiness for a prospective child. I have zero interest in becoming pregnant. I do not want to spend my money on giving birth, nor on school trips, and everything else that comes with raising a child properly. I adore my career and love how much self-efficacy it gives me. I'm completely unwilling to shelve or postpone personal ambitions in order to raise a child. I had a miserable childhood, so I feel like I've suffered enough and just get to enjoy the secure, fun life I'm building for myself now. I guess I'm kind of re-parenting myself. Reason 8. Despite how nice it would be to have a child of my own, I do not have the patience and tolerance for raising a baby. Hell, I don't have much of a tolerance for any so's, so I haven't had any of those either. I have Asperger's syndrome, ASD nowadays, and my hearing is incredibly sensitive. I grew up with ear infections almost every month as a kid, so my hearing has always suffered in some way. That being said, I don't think I would be able to deal with constant crying and screaming from children. Plus, and I don't know if this is weird, but my father was a very abusive and manipulative man. I have PTSD and severe anxiety from what I endured as a kid, and my anxiety always strikes a fear in me that if I were to ever become a parent, I'd be like my father. It scares the piss out of me that I'd allow any child of mine be treated like my dad did to me. I know I'm self-aware of it, and that I could prevent it from happening, but my anxiety is not willing to take the risk. A plus, also that I almost forgot to mention, is the process of labor. It terrifies me. I don't care if the procedure only takes an hour and a baby lasts a lifetime, so it's worth it. I'm scared of pain, and I couldn't imagine myself enduring the second worst recorded level of pain, ever. If I were to ever have a child, by any means, I would plead it was a C-section of some kind, like my mother had. I know it's not much better, but at least I'm asleep as it's happening. Reason 9. I never liked this world enough to want to bring someone into it. Growing up was a traumatic experience when my parents got divorced and lost all of their money. I would lay in my bed and cry every night because of how stuck I was in the world. We had enough to be alive, and that was it. I felt like my childhood lasted 30 years. If I could have opted out of life, I would have. Ironically, I'm a self-made millionaire now, yet I'm still empty inside. Women have come and gone, and I don't really care. I'm sad about the dogs my ex takes care of that I rarely see anymore. I can't imagine being a father to a son or daughter and not seeing them. I would consider it one of my life's greatest failings, forcing my offspring to possibly live the life I did.